What's up stitches, my name is Michael and welcome to or back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to knit the Harry Styles cardigan and I'll be showing you the construction of the back piece. This is the first part in a multiple video series, so if you're excited for that then please do subscribe down below so that you don't miss any of the uploads. And give this video a like so I know that you guys like Harry Styles. And give this video a like so I know that you guys like this type of content. I've seen the Harry Styles cardigan all over TikTok, all over Instagram, everywhere, and I couldn't help myself. It's so interesting as a design. It's got so many different textures and different techniques, and I was just too excited to not have it. I'm not usually a massive, colourful person. I usually wear quite bland, dark colours, aka black or navy blue. So maybe this will jazz up my wardrobe a little bit. In this video, I'm not just going to be knitting the cardigan and showing you how to knit it. I've set myself a challenge. I want to knit this entire cardigan in 36 hours. Some of you may be wondering, why on earth do you want to knit it in 36 hours? Well, I'll tell you. As we all know, knitting is a lot of fun and very rewarding, but it can be and is very time consuming. There are some people out there who can knit insanely fast. I'm not one of those people. And I never really timed myself on how long it takes me to knit a project, so I thought, why not? Everyone's knitting a cardigan, let's see if I can knit it fast, because I've got a lot on my plate and I need to get it done. So as I'm challenging myself, we are going to need some rules. Rule 1 is the moment I start actually knitting, so that's tying on, making a slip knot, casting on, that's when the timer has to start. If I'm just looking at the patches and arranging them, seeing how they look, then that's fine, I don't need to start the timer. Number 2 is I can work on it whenever I want, I just need to make sure that I start the timer every single time I work on it. So I don't have to do it within a week, it's just within 36 hours, so I can work on it once a week for 5 hours and that's fine. Number 3 is the most important, and that one is that I need to make sure the size of my squares matches up exactly to the size of the pattern. I can't be cutting corners and making squares smaller, even though I am using chunky yarn rather than super chunky yarn. I need to make sure that these squares match up directly to the pattern. I genuinely don't know if this is achievable. Like I've said, I've never timed for myself knitting before, so I might be way off and 36 hours may be way too little time for me to do this, but it seems reasonable to me. I don't know about you guys, let me know what you think down below. Because this video is being done in parts, you guys only get to see once I've edited the videos. However, if you want constant updates on how I'm doing, then head on over to my Instagram at @SmichaelGoesKnitting to see updates, and also updates about my Ariana dress. I also stream on Twitch and I have been known to knit the cardigan whilst streaming, so if you're interested in hanging out with me in a knit and natter and seeing how I'm getting on, it's twitch.tv/SmichaelGoesKnitting. Now with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. So I decided to use chunky yarn instead of super chunky, so I needed 3 balls of red and black, 2 balls of orange, yellow and green, and then obviously 100-gram ball of blue. You will also need 3 sets of needles, 4mm, 5.5mm and 6.5mm, or 8mm if you're following the pattern with super chunky yarn. You will also need 6 buttons. They say to be 2 centimeters wide, but I just had some assorted buttons that I'm going to use and hoping that it's going to look okay. You will also need a tapestry needle to sew the panels together and to weave in the ends. And finally, you'll need some scissors to cut the yarn rather than trying to break it in any other method. Now I'll show you how to do each of the squares, starting with yellow, which is the double moss stitch. So to start the square, you need to cast on, so you start by making a slip knot. For this cast on method, we are going to use the long tail cast on because it's generally the one I use for everything, and we don't need too much of a stretch. I've previously made a video on how to do the long tail cast on, so I'll link that here for you to go look at. So now that we've cast on, we can start getting into the actual stitch. The double moss stitch is a 4-row repeating pattern, so rows 1 and 2 are knit 1 and then purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and repeat that until the end of the row. And rows 3 and 4 are the other way round, so it's purl 1, then knit 1, and then repeat that till the end of the row. And then you repeat those 4 rows until it gets to the length that you desire. I do have a video showing you guys how to do the knit stitch and the purl stitch a bit closer up and a bit more detailed, so if you want to check that out, then there'll be a link somewhere around here. I would advise that you check that out before attempting to do the Harry Styles cardigan, just so that you know how to do the stitches and you're comfortable doing them, so you can then alternate a bit easier. If you're following the pattern correctly, then you should end up with a stitch pattern that looks like this. Moving on to the red square, this is done with the jersey slip stitch. This starts off the same, casting on with the long tail cast on, casting on the same number, and this again is a 4-row repeating pattern. So for row 1, you knit the row 2, you purl the whole row 3 is where it gets its texture, and you want to knit 1 and then slip 1. Repeat that until you have 2 stitches left on the left hand needle. Then you want to knit 2, then you want to purl, and then you continue repeating that. If you followed the pattern correctly, then you should have a square that looks like this with the little bumps every 3 rows. Moving on to orange, this one is just your basic garter stitch. Again, casting on 20 stitches, and you knit every single stitch. There's not much to it. I'm not going to show you too much of this because, as I've said, I've shown you a video of how to knit. Very simple, very basic stitch, and you just continue to do that until the square is the length that you want it. Just to remind you, this is what the garter stitch should look like. Moving on to the black square, this is the moss stitch, very similar to the yellow square, except it's a 2-row repeating pattern instead of 4-row repeating pattern. So for the row 1, you knit 1, then purl 1, and repeat that till the end. And then row 2, you purl 1 and then knit 1, and continue to do it in that way. There's really not much to the moss stitch, but let me know in the comments down below if you want a more detailed video on the dynamics of different stitch patterns, and I'm happy to oblige. If you followed the pattern correctly, then you should end up with a square that looks like this. Now onto the green square, this is the reverse B stitch. This isn't something I'd done before, so it was a new one for me. This one is a 4-row repeating pattern again. For row 1, you want to knit all the stitches. Row 2, I had to film afterwards because I realised that I read the pattern wrong. K1B means knit 1 below, not knit 1 through the back loop. So row 2 is knit 1 and then knit 1 below. To knit 1 below, you need to locate the little bump at the bottom of your stitch, and you want to make sure you go through that bump and through the loop. It's pretty difficult to show you here, but I'll do it slowly so that you can see. So you knit 1 and then you locate the little bump and then put the needle through like you would normally, making sure you're also going through that bump. You want to repeat this knit 1 below until you get to the last 2 stitches, and then you want to knit 2. Row 3 is the same as row 1, you just knit, and then row 4, instead of knitting 1 and then knitting 1 below, you knit 2, then knit 1 below, then knit 1, and repeat the knit 1 below and knit 1 until the end. So that kind of staggers them, so you get kind of a diagonal pattern. So I'm really nervous to say this one because I know I'm going to butcher it, but this square is the red and black colour work titled Jacquard. So this is following the colour work pattern that I've got on screen right now. To knit this section, you'll need to use 2-stranded colour work. As you can probably tell, I'm not the greatest or most skilled at this, and the reason this video looks so messy is because I haven't really figured out a way of carrying the yarn that I'm comfortable with. But what you want to do is you want to work row by row. From when you're working in knit, you want to work from right to left. When you're working in purl, you want to work from left to right. You want to continue doing this until you get the right length. I found that I can do this particular pattern 3 times and then I'll have the correct length for the square. Now you just continue following this colour work chart until it's long enough, and you should have something that looks like this. Now that I've shown you how to knit each of the squares, it's time to knit the back panel. So this is the guide that is given on the stitch pattern. the little white squares with the weird little shape in them are the jacquard squares. In the pattern, it advises that you knit each vertical column in kind of one row. So instead of knitting each individual square, you then knit each column and changing colours as you go through. So that's what I'm going to do here. So the footage you're seeing here is the first night of me knitting. I knit for 5 hours straight whilst listening to an audiobook, and it was very disheartening because I didn't do as much as I thought I would. As I've mentioned in the title of this video, I'm trying to knit this within 36 hours. I've had people ask me why I want to knit it in 36 hours, and I thought it would make it fun for me and also to see if I can actually speed up my knitting, because although I've been knitting for a long time, I'm not the fastest of knitters and it does take me a while to finish a project. I completely forgot to mention, but the way I change colours is really kind of basic. I just cut the yarn that I was working with and then tied on the new colour, so there was no trick to it or anything like that. So we're about 10 hours in and I have made progress. I am not sure how on track I am, whether or not I'm on track to finish my goal, but progress is what I've made. So I'll show you guys what I've done. So here is what 10 hours of progress looks like. I'll be honest, it's not as much as I thought I would be able to achieve. So what I have managed to do, out of the 6 columns on the back piece, I've finished 4 of them. The top square of each panel is shorter than the rest of the squares for shaping purposes, and now I'm working on the outside 2 panels and they have some shoulder shaping, which is why I left them till last, because they're a little bit different, so they might take me a bit longer to do, but who knows, let's see how it goes. So that's the back piece completely knitted, and all I have to do is sew up the seams and I will have almost completed the back piece. Obviously I still have the trim to go, but it's looking like it's achievable. Here's some footage of me sewing up the panels together. I used the mattress stitch to do this, and I haven't got too much footage here because seaming is my least favourite part of any knitting project. If you are interested in how to do the mattress stitch, I've included some links in the description. There we have it. The back piece is completed. So I've done all of the maths and I have worked out how long the back piece took me, including sewing all the pieces together, and it all added up to 13 hours and 22 minutes. So I'm not really sure how good that is. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, so you'll have to check out my next video to see how I get along. If you want to continue on with me in this journey of creating this beautiful cardigan, then subscribe down below so that you don't miss any of my uploads, and make sure you click the notification bell. If you like this video, then do give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that you guys are interested in seeing more of this content. As I mentioned, I do also stream on Twitch, so if you are interested in hanging out with me with a knit and natter, then do head on over to twitch.tv/SmichaelGoesKnitting. Some of you have been asking questions about the dress that I made in my last video. I am still in the process of grading the pattern. I have done almost everything now. I just need to work out the yarn yardage, and then I'll be looking for testers. So if you're interested in test knitting that design, head on over to my Instagram @SmichaelGoesKnitting, where I'll be putting out the call for testers, and you can see how I'm getting along with this cardigan. If you're also making the Harry Styles cardigan, I'd love to see how you're getting on, so please do feel free to tag me in them on Instagram or TikTok or anything. I love seeing how you guys are getting on. And if there are any techniques in this video that you want a bit more of a close-up of and more of a lesson on how to do it, then do let me know in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to do a whole video on each of the different stitch types. As I said in my last video, I'm trying to keep to a regular upload schedule, a weekly upload schedule, and thus far, I'm doing alright. Let's see if I can keep it up. Your support is massively motivating to me. I've got some big plans for this channel, so stick around if you want to be involved in that excitement. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Stay wholesome and happy knitting.